In the annals of history, certain figures stand shrouded in misunderstanding, their true intentions obscured by the fog of their times, and in some cases, the misrepresentation of character. For instance, picture Athens, 399 BC, a city pulsating with intellectual fervor, yet teetering on the edge of uncertainty. Here stands Socrates, a philosopher who dared to challenge the status quo, encouraging the youth to question the very fabric of Athenian society. His relentless pursuit for truth and virtue, however, cast him as a subversive element in the eyes of the authorities. Accused of corrupting the youth and impiety, Socrates faced a trial that would seal his fate. Despite his defense, he was condemned to death by hemlock. His legacy misunderstood by many of his contemporaries. Fast forward to the 20th century, and we encounter another figure cloaked in misrepresentation: President Jimmy Carter. Ascending to the presidency in 1977, Carter's tenure was marred by economic turmoil and international crisis. His steadfast commitment to human rights and unyielding moral compass were perceived by some as signs of weakness and indecision at the time. The Iran hostage crisis, in particular, painted a portrait of a leader beleaguered and ineffectual. Yet, beyond the veneer of political adversity lay a man of profound integrity and vision. It was only in the years following his presidency that the world began to grasp the depth of his humanitarian efforts and strength inherent in his compassionate leadership. These narratives serve as poignant reminders of how easily true character and intentions can be obscured by prevailing perceptions. In the grand tapestry of the cosmic conflict between good and evil, such misrepresentations can lead to misguided allegiances and profound misunderstandings. So, as we delve deeper into this intricate struggle, let's remain vigilant, seeking truth beyond appearances and striving to understand the genuine nature of the forces at play. Hi there. Thank you for joining in today. If it's your first time here, welcome on board. It's so good to have you here with us. It is Q1E11, and we are today exploring the rhetorical question: what more could I have done? You ready? Get your Bibles and let's get started. Let's do this. Previously, we've uncovered the following unsettling truths. 1. A relentless cosmic conflict rages between divine benevolence and a diabolical malevolence, waged within the battleground of our minds. Unbeknownst to many, we are not mere spectators but active combatants in this celestial war. Number 2. The cosmic struggle is governed by immutable laws binding on all celestial and terrestrial beings. These rules of engagement dictate the strategies and outcomes of this eternal confrontation. Number 3, the war's duration is finite, its conclusion inevitable. While the exact moment remains shrouded in mystery, the outcome is unequivocal. The Messiah triumphs, the adversary is vanquished, and he is acutely aware of his impending doom. Therefore, the present time is a crucible of allegiance, aligned with the victorious Redeemer, or the doomed deceiver. Though loaded with eternal consequences, the choice is yours. From the moment unrighteousness was found in the once perfect being now turned rogue, as we read in Ezekiel 28, he has been on a crusade of misrepresenting and maligning the character of God, first among the heavenly hosts, and now targeting humanity. We read in Revelation 12, it did not go down well with the angels who got ensnared by his falsehoods. Now we are in his crosshairs. A wise man once said, those who neglect their history are doomed to replicate its follies. Thankfully, we are not left in the dark. We have been given access to some declassified details on the character and motives of both stakeholders in this cosmic conflict. So, we do not repeat the mistakes of the fallen angels. Now, here are some pointers from our standard reference resource. A. First about adversary. Number 1. From the dawn of creation, he has beguiled the entirety of humanity. His initial insurrection led to the celestial faction expelling a third of the angels, as we read in Revelation 12, verse 4 and 9. His deceit inaugurated the cascade of evil that now engulfs our world. Number 2, he insistently maligns the divine and his followers, both in the celestial realms and on earth. Revelation 12 and 10 portrays him as the accuser, while Job 1 and 2, along with Zechariah 3 verse 1 and 2, depict his relentless denunciations. Permit me digress at this point. If you ever catch yourself slandering or accusing, be reminded whose course you are advancing, regardless of your very beautiful reasons. You are unwittingly advancing his nefarious agenda. Remember this. Number 3, having ensnared Adam in his transgression, he now prowls the earth as a counterfeit sovereign, roaming around like a lion seeking whom he may devour. 1 Peter 5 verse 8. Now B, God through Jesus. Number 1. On the other hand, to dispel the shadows of falsehood and illuminate our path, Jesus forsook the splendors of heaven and the adulation of angels, stepping into our realm to bear witness to the truth, the unblemished essence of God's character, delivered firsthand. Number 2, Jesus through the cross supremely demonstrated God's perfect righteousness and distinctly displaying to the full glare of the entire universe the true character and motives of God on the one hand, on the other hand, the true intentions of the adversary. Number 3, at the cross, the devil unveiled his ultimate malice, branding himself eternally as a murderer by spilling the blood of the Son of God. He severed any remaining strands of sympathy from the heavenly beings. Number 4, by creation and redemption, this world rightfully belongs to God, and he will finally complete what he started by putting an end to sin, sinners, and the originator of sin himself, Satan. And now, though Satan still assumes the role of the usurping ruler of this world, he knows the fate that awaits him, and he knows time is running out. The contrast couldn't be clearer. Extrapolating from the details gleaned from Job's experience, and even the life and ministry of Jesus, it is safe to conclude that 1. Righteousness always prevails over evil in the end. 2. God always works to bring about in the end what is good for all concerned, even if it doesn't make sense now. So when you choose, please do so wisely because our choices have eternal consequences. When all is said and done, there can only be two groups. 1. The eternally saved, and 2. The eternally lost. And that brings us to the book of Isaiah. And the first 4 verses of Isaiah 5, we are introduced to an interesting illustration. A vineyard owner who pours his heart into nurturing his vineyard, investing time and resources, anticipating a bounty of luscious grapes. Yet at harvest, he's met with bitter wild fruit, a profound betrayal of his expectations. Now, in Matthew 21:33 to 39, Jesus takes it a step further. The vineyard owner temporarily employs the services of caretakers to nurture his vineyard in his absence. But when it was time for harvest, every effort made to reach the vineyard dressers was futile. He sent his servants, but they beat up one, killed the second, and stoned the third. Refusing to give up, he gives them benefit of the doubt and sends another set, but they met the same fate. And the third time, he sends his son, thinking, this time they would realize how important this must be to me. But guess what? They did the unthinkable. They conspired and gruesomely killed his son, aiming to seize the inheritance. This brings us to the ultimate question for today in Isaiah 5 verse 4. What more could he, the vineyard owner, have done to get a better outcome from both scenarios? Interestingly, even Jesus' audience acknowledged and affirmed the justice of the vineyard owner. You would recall we have earlier explained that parables are illustrations used to convey object lessons. Isaiah 5 verse 7 gives us some clues here. In this case, the vineyard represents Israel, and by extension, our world, akin to the field in the parable of the sower. The owner symbolizes God, the ultimate cultivator of righteousness, and the caretakers in Matthew embodies as many as assume a leadership role over the people of God in all ages. In these parables, God is expressing how heavily invested He is in us, even up to emptying heaven of its very best in sending us His only begotten Son, Jesus, to redeem us. In Isaiah, the vineyard owner does everything within his power to nurture and groom the vineyard to bear good fruits in preparation for the harvest. Yet, despite doing all that he could, it brought forth only bad fruits. In Matthew, he explores every avenue to maintain a good relationship with the vineyard dressers, tolerates their excesses patiently, but still they continually snub his promptings. Now, notice in both cases, number one, each phase or event, whether cultivation or seeking reconciliation, is bound by time, a season, emphasizing the urgency of our response. Number two, while each season lasted, the vineyard owner exhausted all that could be done. And despite his preference to get a desired outcome, he respected the decisions of the recipients of his grace. Number three, the end of each season marked a transition to a phase of accountability, judgment, a reminder that actions in the now bear eternal consequences in the future. In Matthew 21:33 to 41, after Jesus' narrative, even his audience recognized that the landowner had done everything possible before enacting judgment, affirming the righteousness of his decision. Would you agree? Unfortunately, every effort God has made and continues to make to get us to bear fruit here in readiness to go home has been sabotaged, undermined, and trashed by most of us, just like in this parable. Eventually, this season too will come to an end, and the phase of accountability will set in. Just like in this parable, it will be too late then to switch sides. So question is, 1. If some are lost in the end, what more could God have done to save them? Better still, for us today, what more can God do to get us ready to go home when it's time? Punish 1. Should any be lost eventually, God would not be responsible. He would have exhausted all options. Number 2, in extension, God is not responsible for most of the things he gets blamed for today. On the contrary, he has never stopped working for us. He is heavily invested in us, even up to giving up his only son to redeem us. But just like we have learned, he cannot force himself against our will. That will be interfering with the rules of engagement and undermining the foundations of his government, free will. God has done and continues to do everything that's required to get us ready to go home. But we have to first accept it and commit to keeping it, to make it real in our lives. So, final answer, God has exhausted all options to get us ready to go home. It's now up to us to accept what he offers or not. As always, don't tell me, show God. And that's it for this week, folks. Next week, we'll dive into the topic love and justice, the two greatest commandments. You don't want to miss that. Until then, stay the course. I remain your Sabasco Doodle, doodling out. Let's make it make sense. If you were blessed by this session, be sure to like, share, and subscribe so you are notified as soon as we publish. And if you have not yet given your life to Christ, you should while you still can. I'll see you next week, God willing. Happy Sabbath.